it was just that moment of how we have the ability to treat other people.
Yeah.
And that my role could be to help educate, help humanize people again, because it's when we stop seeing each other as fellow human beings that a lot of injustice happens.
Richard Fortin Presents.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am in Suite 16 today with my friend Vanessa Tignanelli. You will love meeting this person because I'm going to love introducing you to her. Vanessa, with no further ado, welcome to Richard Fortin Presents.
Thank you, Richard.
The music.
Richard Fortin Presents.
Vanessa, thanks for coming in.
Thank you
Really
for having
appreciate
me.
it.
What do you want to talk about?
Your story.
Okay.
I mean, you are a master storyteller. Anybody, right from the get-go, I think they got to go to your website, vanessatignanelli.com?
Yeah,
C-A,
.com.
.com.
Yeah.
Go find vanessatignanelli.com right now as you're listening to this and actually look at the work Vanessa's done, because it is mind-blowing, beautiful, and you'll understand why I'm saying she's a master storyteller, which is the key to communicating, I think, in our day and age, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, we've talked about this before too. I grew up with so much privilege and a very limited sense of what the world actually was. And I think from a young age, I really knew that I had to take that and go out and just be a student. And so I really learned about the world through other people. And I've really tried to give back at the same time. So creativity was a way that you could do that. You could connect, you could dive into their life, you could learn as you go, and then still kind of create a product from that too, right? That helped everybody involved. So I don't know, it just kind of evolved from painting to then finding the camera. And the camera was amazing because it let me be mobile. Whereas with painting, I was in a studio all the time, and I really didn't like that. So coming from a fine art background and then finding photojournalism was just this really natural thing that happened with finding out what my purpose really was and what matched my personality more.
And you've dabbled in so many things, because it's not even up there, I would say, on your website, but you're also a musician and you're in a band, and you're not just doing the visual, you're also doing the audio.
It's all creative.
It's all
creative, yeah. It's all
creative.
Storytelling. I mean, I love poetry. I've always loved poetry. I was really into Shakespeare in high school and loved analyzing and breaking apart what he meant, right? Or they meant. They think it might be, anyways, another history lesson. But I love words. That's like such a beautiful way to tell stories too. And so whether or not others find that little doorway, that opening of like, think about someone else's experience for a second. Empathy. That can happen through music, poetry, visuals, right? So it's like wanting to get people to connect to an idea or another person. I love that stuff.
And you're sharing such awesome ideas. I'd like you to talk to me about, we could talk about the past, and maybe we'll come back to that, but I really want to make sure we talk about some exciting projects you're working on that are really upcoming.
Okay.
That I know you want to share about. There's a show you're curating.
I've been asked by Alex at the Kennedy Gallery to do an exhibition. So this is really my return to fine art for the first time in over a decade.
Amazing.
Since I did my fine art undergraduate degree at Guelph, I went right into photography, and I've just been doing that. And so it's interesting because I hadn't realized how little I'd been telling my own story or living my own story. And then I reconnected with an old love of mine here in North Bay, moved back, had graduated photojournalism, was trying to do it all from here. And then it was the first time, when we got engaged, it was the first time someone said, no, participate in your own life. What do you want? I was like, oh my God, I don't know. I'd dedicated myself to everyone else, right? And doing that kind of work. So this exhibition opportunity came up, and I was like, I'm gonna dive into my own story for the first time. So it's very vulnerable. It's very, it's a mix of all these different mediums that I've used in the past, from video to sculpture. I'm working with iCamp at Canador to do some 3D printing. And just, photography, and taking all of that stuff and kind of creating a wandering through Vanessa's mind as she's tried to bring these two worlds together, with these two identities together, which is kind of the very feminist, photojournalist, nomadic wanderer who tells everyone else's story, to this engaged future wife,
Rooted.
living at home, rooted. Yeah.
And where you grew up, you chose to come back to North Bay, which isn't an obvious place to live if you're a super creative person, really, right? Like it's there's actually I take that back. There are tons of super creative people around. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not an obvious place where the community is like super in your face and out there, I would say. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's definitely building. It's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming.
is.
But it's it's a tricky place. It's a tricky place to make a real living out of it. There had to be some things that I do on the side and be a lot more open to using these skills and going back to, say, shooting a couple weddings or doing some family photography, which I do and I happily do on the side. But I really love the documentary photography assignments that I get to work on. But they're few and far between, and you have to come up with them and pitch them yourself oftentimes, right?
That's cool. So now you have the opportunity to go back into your fine arts background through this exposition that's coming up, I think, in September?
Yes. Yeah, it's at the Kennedy Gallery, end of September till October.
Okay, so watch out for that coming up. I can't wait to go see that.
Thank you.
Go check that out, and we'll bring more attention closer to the time. Okay. You're also doing a really cool project with Photographers Without Borders. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Photographers Without Borders is really cool organization because it is a charity. They understand the importance of, how do you explain? Okay, everyone knows National Geographic.
Yep.
This is the way that I so National Geographic pairs documentary photographers with organizations. It's a lot of photographers that are doing work on conservation, that know what people are doing in terms of scientific exploration, humanitarian work, right? And they go and they document what those people are doing to then bring it to attention to the rest of the world, right? So that's, in a nutshell, documentary photography, which not everyone knows what that is, right? So I have to be aware that that's part of the education happening right now. And Photographers Without Borders kind of similarly pairs organizations that are grassroots. They're just kind of up and coming. They still need a lot of funding. They might not have a platform yet. And they understand that strong visuals will really help them explain not only what crisis is going on where they are, but also what work they're doing and how they also need support to help, right? Yeah. So through Photographers Without Borders, you're a volunteer.
Yeah.
And you get paired up with an organization like that. You have to apply, you have to show your portfolio, and they only have a few assignments a year. I had done one with them in the Gambia in 2017, and it was just an amazing opportunity to go and help and know that my photographs would be used for something really great. And it did. It ended up helping the organization, Aging with a Smile, raise money to open PSW services for elderly that were living in rural communities in the Gambia that were all suffering from glaucoma.
Yeah.
So
a great cause.
Oh, amazing. And like an amazing work that these folks are doing, right? And it was such like a privilege to step in and be able to observe what they were doing. It makes me a better person, really. Like,
well, it opens your eyes to the world too, right?
Oh my gosh.
How would you go into these communities if without that?
With such access, like with such vulnerable access, because they know why you're there. Yeah. So that's, oh my God, it's the thing that I love the most about that work, is that everyone is so open to me as well. And so what you can learn and then what you can show others, I mean, the editing process is a whole other side of it, right? Because you go and you learn and you experience. And it's the kind of job where you have to bring your work home with you. You have to. Because then I sit there for a month editing these stories and wanting to hold on to those feelings so that whatever ends up coming out in the photos is what the audience will see and experience too. And to put that all back into it, it's such a process.
What a process. What a commitment.
Yeah, but I love it.
So so now you're doing another one.
Yes. So yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep bringing you right back because I want people to know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I applied again, and I'm being sent to Kyrgyzstan
Where
in
is
November.
that? I had to look it up.
Yeah, Kyrgyzstan. So it's known as Kazakhstan's little brother. So it's right underneath Kazakhstan, China, Mongolia. It's in that area.
Amazing.
It's the culture is fascinating. It's kind of a mix of all three of those places. And landscapes are incredible.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it has a Soviet Union history. And they still believe in institutionalizing anyone who's different.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so there's this group of parents who have created the Santera Community Foundation. And because of institutionalization, anyone who's born with Down syndrome usually will be encouraged even by doctors to be abandoned at birth. And so these are a group of parents that decide to keep their children with Down syndrome and have done a lot of research in terms of what's available in other countries to provide resources and support for the parents. And they know that, with the proper resources, these children can totally thrive, right? And become very independent adults. So they're trying to bring occupational therapy to the country. They're opening resource centers where kids with Down syndrome can play together and learn in the ways that they need to learn, right?
Yeah.
And so it's amazing what these parents are doing and trying to change the whole system of thinking in this country that's very outdated, right?
Yeah. So when do you go?
Yeah, I go in November. Yeah, for 10 days.
Signing for 10 days?
Yeah. And so I go on behalf of Photographers Without Borders myself, and it's cool because you get a translator and a guide. Again, that access, right? When else do you get that kind of support? So I get a guide, and I'm researching a ton before I go.
And a meaningful job. Like a meaningful project to work on.
Right, because then the photos are used.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they're hoping to open more resource centers and fundraise.
Cool. So how do people support that initiative if they want to help you, or that story touches them and they want to learn more about this?
Right. So because it is volunteer, I am allowed to fundraise for just my flight, my travel costs. So there is a Group Rev website that Photographers Without Borders launches for each project.
Awesome.
So it's grouprev.com.
We're going to link to it.
Yeah, PWB fundraiser-DS.
Yeah? Okay, we're going to link it.
Yeah,
right there.
it comes up on the screen right now. There it is.
There.
Right there.
Perfect.
And so
awesome.
anything beyond my flight, it goes right to the charity.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
That's really cool. So you have some travels coming up.
Yeah.
How's it not been able, so for this COVID-19 situation over, I would say, what has it been, a year and a half? When was the last trip you took? Not to Toronto.
Yeah, the last one was I went to Newfoundland on an assignment for True North Photojournal. And I did an entire study on the gender wage gap there. And over 10 days, I photographed almost 30 women who were working in male-dominated industries and told their stories through a series of portraits and quotes from them. And it was.
Was that from Maclean's?
No, that was for True North Photojournal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that was the last trip that I got to take, and usually I love to do one or two of those a year for publications, but otherwise it's been pitching a lot of local stories, which is great. So working for CBC and
CBC Arts.
Yeah, CBC Arts, CBC News.
Amazing.
Different publications, Canadian Press, Maclean's. That's a big part of the photojournalism work.
Yeah.
pitching stories. So I'm always looking for stories in town and really interesting people and initiatives that North Bay is doing. Because I thought if I'm going to be based here, I'd really love to help put more of our stories on the media, on the national media stage, right?
Yeah, that's a really, really good initiative.
Yeah.
Is it true that you're going to study more?
Yes.
You're going back to school? Because
Yes.
that's not enough. You don't have enough on your plate. Let's go back to school.
I'm trying to think ahead, Richard.
Tell me what you're going to study, what your plan is there.
I'm going to study art history and visual culture masters at University of Guelph.
Awesome. Which is, you graduated from Guelph in
2012 it would have been. So now 10 years later I'm going back for a master's.
You must be so excited.
I'm really excited because I miss the academia world and a lot of this work that we're chatting about, it's very solo. It's very isolating and most of it is done alone. So I'm really craving collaboration. And just to be with a group that finds this stuff as fascinating as I do.
Totally.
And
So do you have a thesis chosen? Or do you know what you're doing or?
Kind of. It will definitely change as we go, right? Anyone who's done a thesis, I think, knows that.
Yeah.
So I'm prepared for that, but it's definitely going to be a continuation somehow of the exhibition I'm doing.
Yeah.
So they've actually allowed me to start in January in the winter semester.
Cool.
So I can do Kyrgyzstan and my exhibition and have those done and see that as a continuation of that work.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking over your website and when I was looking at it, it's like, where do you go with this conversation? Because it can go in so many ways. You're such an eclectic person. But I think the string that ties it all together is this ethic you seem to project. You talked a little bit about vulnerability, about your attempt to to be willing to go in vulnerable places, being willing to tell vulnerable stories, and how that ends up being such a, such value, that ends up being what distinguishes your work, because the topics, are all over.
They are,
You're
they are.
doing a lot.
Yeah, master of none. But they are.
I wouldn't agree with that. Darren wouldn't agree with that either. I think a lot of people in town or people who know you would not agree with that.
Oh, geez.
You do a really good job.
I need to keep things different.
Yeah.
To learn, right? What does anyone get telling the same story?
Do you know if that's like a part of your DNA, like you're born that way? Because
I'm an Aquarius, do you know?
Oh yeah, I know. I'm an air element. I'm a Gemini. That's why I ask. I wouldn't be asking if I wasn't totally into it. Are you
So
kidding?
tell me.
I'm the most airy fairy person in the world, as if you couldn't tell. So yeah, no, Aquarius, air element. So that just, so I'm into the chakras and I'm learning. We were just talking about yoga. Let's go there.
Okay.
Talk to me about your yoga practice. You told me right before we started rolling that I said, so what's your physical practice? Because you look fantastic.
Oh, thanks. So do you.
And so, and you said yoga. And I knew you did yoga. I mean, it doesn't shock me or surprise me or anything, but I'm really curious to share and learn about your yoga practice, how you actually do it.
Sure. So I begin every morning writing 3 pages of just...
The morning pages, Artist's Way.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know it?
Yeah, of course. Cameron, what's her name?
What a moment.
Who's the writer of
Julie
that book?
Cameron.
Julie Cameron? Yeah.
Everybody should go read that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called The Artist's Way, right?
The Artist's Way. Yeah.
The morning pages.
So I had read that. Yeah. It's become a big part of my practice.
And
I
that's
think
channeling,
an important
right?
one.
You're not editing there. You're just writing out.
Just like, what's it? Stream of consciousness?
Stream of consciousness. You do that?
Oh, yeah.
Every day?
Every morning.
Really?
I start the day with tea and stream of conscious thought. That's actually how I decided to go back and do my master's, because I was feeling very stuck in what I was going to do next. And
I just got chills.
Yeah, and art history too, which is something that, it was my minor in university.
Yeah.
So it's not even, I'm not going to do an MFA in documentary film, which is what I'm practicing now, right? So it was just so interesting that that's what came out.
Wow.
And so I do that, and I end the days with yoga. And meditation and reading.
So what does that look like? You stretching and movement? Is it a sun salutations?
It depends on where you gotta hit, right? So it's just
so you hit postures.
20, 30 minutes, flows.
Yeah.
I studied Moto yoga
Okay.
for a while, hot yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you do it on your own? Are you able to
Yeah.
get through practice on your own?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I need to put something on
Or
go to class.
yoga with Adrienne is really great.
Yeah? What's that one?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yoga with Adrienne.
Yoga with Adrienne on YouTube.
She's excellent.
Recommended by Vanessa
Yeah,
Tignanelli.
she's excellent. Yeah, and there's no
Yeah.
music in the background. I don't know.
It's
I
the
like that it's
practice.
just
Yeah.
her speaking. It's very calm. She's hilarious and goofy and very real. And so I love it. Yeah,
Beautiful.
it gets you in the moment. I think it's really important to have a practice like that as a creative person, right?
Yeah, sure.
Give
Because that's,
yourself-
yeah, well, it's important to create the space where you can even recognize, see yourself.
Yeah, and
isn't
tap
it?
in, and a lot of the creative process is spiritual. And I'm not a religious person, but you're tapping into something. It's like a voice way deep down somewhere, and I also believe in serendipity quite a bit. So it's just so funny. You know, you say like you've done so much, everything has kind of led to the next very organically, and I've never actually applied for a job ever in my life.
Yeah.
It just kind of comes.
But maybe that's because you're doing things that you love, like really, they are rooted in meaning. Like that's what I mean by when I'm going through your website, like there is a string that's recognizable. It's the meaning, it means something to you. Because I don't think you can make art like that if it doesn't.
No.
Because that's the difference maybe before like shooting a commercial for Canadian Tire and telling a story about, you know, children with Down syndrome and how we could
Right.
bring attention, you know, like
Right.
there's a different, it's anchored in a different purpose.
Yeah.
And you have had the courage to
Oh,
anchor your
geez.
work in that purpose, haven't you? No, but would you agree? I'm just assuming
I
that.
think, I mean, that's lovely to say. Thank you. I think it's just passion for it. I don't know.
But you have a desire to talk about social justice. You're not just it's
Right.
It's not just like passion about a Ferrari.
No.
Like-
No. I care about people quite a bit,
Yeah.
and I care about giving a platform to people who might not otherwise have a voice.
Yeah.
And I think the first story I ever worked on was going to Germany and Poland to follow a Holocaust survivor through camps that he had been at as a child and survived. And it was just that moment to like how we have the ability to treat other people,
Yeah.
and that my role could be to help educate, help humanize people again, because it's when we stop seeing each other as fellow human beings that a lot of injustice happens. Say the Down syndrome story, right? My goal is to go and show everybody that these kids are like any other kid, right?
Yeah.
They have their favorite toys, they have temper tantrums, they love sleeping and cuddling, and you know, it's like, what's the difference, right? So that's what drives me, because it's at the end when it's published, I don't care about the accolades or the title of the publication or whatever. It's when the people that I did the story on come back to me and say, you nailed it.
Yeah.
You captured us perfectly. You got the essence of that story. And
And our
thank you for
voice is out
representing
there.
me. Yeah.
For the rest of time.
That's what I care about. It's like,
Yeah.
have I represented this properly? Have I done everything I can? So it's like thousands and thousands of hours, Richard, of research and editing and going back and forth. And so, like, I mean, financially, it's not, it's not great.
Yeah.
But I love it. So I think that's what you were saying too about creativity. Like you have to really care.
Yeah.
And that's what they say about art. It's like you have to really care, because it's a lot of time and very little.
Yeah. Yeah, the outside reward isn't why you do it. I do think though that over time you will receive the outside, like, because you're young. Like I was thinking, like you're just starting your career. I know you're not. You've been well into it. You're 10 years out and you're going for, you know.
Right.
But really, when we take a step back, you know, I love the photo of you with, is it your grandma's hands?
Yeah, my
You know?
nana, yeah.
Your hands. But when you look at those hands on your face, what are we seeing? It's those wrinkles.
Yes.
It's what those hands did over a lifetime.
Yeah.
Next to your baby face, you know,
Yeah.
because and there's a beautiful contrast there, and you are still at the beginning.
Yeah,
in
I'm
some
31.
ways.
I'm
Yeah.
31. You can ask.
So-
No, I'm kidding.
You're 31
Yeah.
years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who knows where
There's
it's
a
going to go, because I think it'll keep flowing,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I think a big thing that a lot of artists do too is you're always trying to find your voice, right? And the right medium to go with that voice.
Yeah.
So I've dipped into everything because why not try it all, right?
Yeah.
It's like as soon as you get good at one instrument, you probably want to pick up another and see if you can write something new on that, right?
Yeah.
So these are just tools for connecting and storytelling. Yeah.
I've seen you perform music, and I've seen you perform as well. Like you've gone that way. Do you have any advice that you would give somebody, a young person that might be watching this, that is really inspired by your work and feels like it would be an insurmountable mountain to climb to get to that point? Because when we go scroll down your website, it's just an amazing project. No, it is. It really is intimidating. It could be intimidating. Oh, how did she get so far? What would you say to somebody who's maybe in high school, learning about what it is to be a documentary filmmaker, learning maybe that they want to do art? What would you tell that young person today with your 31 years of experience under your belt? What would you say to
All
yourself
31 years of it?
at 18 years old?
I would say to write every morning.
Yeah?
Honestly.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
I love that, 'cause
just
it's practical.
Trust yourself. Yeah. I think really just try to listen to the universe. Like say yes to everything that comes. Don't think too far ahead. Just take one opportunity at a time, and it will lead to other things.
Beautiful. You got it. Well,
I think that's it. That's
on
all.
that note, I'm going to thank you, because there's so many other things I know we could talk about, but I'll have you come back after you've done some trips, or before,
love
you know,
to.
we're going to figure out a way to keep following your story. You have a lot of neat things to say. I think our whole community, I'm speaking for our whole community when we say we're really proud that you're willing to take take your voice, have courage, say what you got to say. And I can't wait to see the show at the Kennedy Gallery in North Bay.
Thank you.
And how that'll spin off into your academia future.
I really have to thank North Bay for the time. It's the first time like I said, that I've been really rooted and thinking about who I am, and it's so nice to be back where I'm from with my family.
Well, I actually always say this usually with people, is there anybody that you'd like to do a shout out to that right now that inspires you? And I know it's a hard thing, because you're going to say, well, everybody, oh my God, you're going to put me on the spot.
Yeah.
But who do you want to shine a little light on in our community, and maybe just thank them or say, hey, keep doing that, we appreciate it, or that's inspired you?
I think I actually would like to thank Alix Vaz at the Kennedy Gallery, because I think that she's doing an amazing job with her team there to keep the gallery going and bringing really high quality, awesome shows there. Yeah.
She's really invigorated that space, hasn't
100%.
Yeah, she is amazing, and she's been around. She's awesome.
Yeah.
So now, final request. Can you tell us where to find you? Your tags on everything. Hi, I'm Vanessa.
My website is www.vanessatignanelli.com. Instagram @vantigphoto. And take care.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You're a real all-star.
Thank you.